Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me today on this very valuable webinar or class on how to avoid getting cancer. So, first, I just want to say that, this information is based on my knowledge of Ayurveda and my training that I received in India as per Ayurveda. And Ayurveda, has a department of, Ayurveda oncology. And I've known an Ayurvedic oncologist who I did spend a lot of time with questioning and asking questions about formulas for different types of cancer. And of course, my own teacher has been very successful in treating many types of cancer. And of course, in India, there's large Ayurvedic cancer centers, as large as universities with multiple campuses, and with one building for prostate cancer, one building for a breast cancer, one building for blood cancers, etc. I mean, whole buildings with just multiple parking lots and just look like a giant university. And they're just treating cancer according to Ayurveda, and they're well known around the world. We know many wealthy people, particularly Middle Easterners, when they have cancer, they go to India. And when you're in India and you go to an Ayurvedic cancer clinic, the majority of the people are from other countries around the world. So India has a reputation, or we should say Ayurveda has a reputation of treating cancer, and they've been doing it for thousands of years. And there's millions of Ayurvedic doctors today successfully treating cancer in their private practice. This information seems to be censored in our society, or let's just say lost in the confusion of people's research. So today's talk is not based on research. It's based on my understanding of what causes cancer, what we can do to avoid getting cancer, according to my experience, my teachers, not teaching that they gave me, and of course, Ayurveda and my time that I've spent in India in Ayurvedic centers and dealing with Ayurvedic doctors. So we're first going to cover quickly the concept of Ayurveda. Concept of cancer according to Ayurveda. Why does cancer come according to Ayurveda? Then we're going to go through the list of lifestyle habits and foods and things that we consume that are carcinogenic. Of course, many of these you've, of course, heard online, but there's going to be quite a few that you've probably didn't think about or know. My list will be more comprehensive than what you see online. And then third, we're going to talk about, well, why do some people get cancer when they have been eating good, having organic food, and not been, doing these unhealthy lifestyle habits? Like say they're living on the farm and growing their own food and low stress. And why does somebody still get cancer? And I'm going to answer that question and explain that at the end. So stay tuned. But let's start now with lifestyle habits that contribute to cancer. Because, well, your immune system has to be lowered to have cancer, just like if you go in a room and there's some children in there with the flu, the person whose immunity is low is going to get the flu, and the person whose immunity is high is not going to get the flu. So it's a lot similar with cancer. Your immune system has to be, not functioning well. And what stresses out your immune system or decreases its ability? Well, these are these lifestyle habits. Number one, stress. We don't need to get into the scientific and molecular understanding of how stress affects our cells and our mitochondria and creates cancer. But stress is definitely a major factor for a lot of health conditions. Almost all health conditions can be exacerbated by stress, and we all have stress. There's healthy stress, and to some degree. But when we have this chronic stress for decades, then we could call that a lifestyle habit contributing to cancer. Also, poor sleep, because you need the sleep for immunity, and a lot of people are getting up at night to urinate, and that's what's ruining their sleep. So the nighttime urination is affecting the sleep, and then the sleep is lowering their immunity, and then in decades they become susceptible to cancer. Overwork, overachieving. I see a lot of wealthy men, billionaires, worth a lot of money, owning multiple companies, driving Rolls Royces with cancer, and it's because they're stressed, they're overworked, and probably they're eating out a lot of fried foods. So, but overwork, overdoing it, over pushing yourself, and then a lack of physical activity. Not necessarily you have to be running around the block and working out in the gym. That's not necessary. You have to be physically active. Like a farmer is physically active and doesn't go to the gym. So you have to be more physically active, and being too sedentary, gaining weight, obviously is a big factor. Obesity is also a big factor, particularly for tumor cancer. So, and then alcohol, we know, is very destructive, can lead to liver cancers, mouth cancers. Smoking, of course, can be a major cause of lung cancer, mouth cancer. Pollution, also lung cancer, living in a polluted place. And of course, all medications are toxic. So, consumption of many medications is, and many of them are known to be carcinogenic, just like all artificial chemical substances are some degree harmful to the body, just like heavy metals. And then, of course, BPA types of plastics are carcinogenic. Cleaning equipment is carcinogenic. Of course, the nonstick pan is one of the most famous items that leads to cancer and is known to. I mean, I think there's a bunch of research behind that, but also stain-resistant cleaning products. A lot of cleaning products, and those including that have bleach, all are known to, be carcinogenic. And pesticides, additives, GMO, all genetically modified foods. Of course, trans fats. The big ones, of course, you're going to find online if you just start researching, that are, the refined sugar, the soda pop, the processed meats, and even the World Health Organization says red meat, particularly grilled, is carcinogenic. Again, you could find things online that contradict any of this, but I'm again telling you from my knowledge and experience, and for somebody who's treated many cases of cancer, this is the types of things that I advise my patients. And of course, all fried foods, French fries, potato chips. But what about also farmed salmon, farmed fish? Is known to be cancer causing. That's why I only buy wild fish. And canned tomatoes, all hydrogenated oils, white flour, white sugar, of course. There's many people say sugar feeds cancer, but it doesn't include fruit. It's the refined sugar. And white flour with refined sugar, like a croissant or a donut, you definitely have some 2 or 3 major, and plus the preservatives in it, you could have 5, 6 different carcinogenic substances in one donut. And we now know the food colorings, are carcinogenic. Like red dye number 3 has now finally been banned in the United States, even though the EU and other countries have banned it a long time ago because it was carcinogenic. And amazingly, when I looked at the list of foods and things that use red dye number 3, of course, Fruit Loops given to children, candy bars and Skittles and colorful candy, all have this red dye number 3, which has now been, banned because it's so proven to be carcinogenic. I would say that the other colorings aren't healthy either. It's just some are much worse than others and had more research done. So, somebody giving their children these colored candies and color cereals is literally giving the child, carcinogenic substance, plus the white sugar, plus the white bread, plus all the other preservatives and things in there. But that is why I never eat these things. People sometimes ask me, "Why aren't you having this? Why aren't you having that? Why aren't you having this?" And usually that's always my answer is I want to avoid cancer. That's why I don't have any. I'm not the type of person that says, well, a little bit's going to be fine. I know there's many people in that camp, but that's not my camp. If something is unhealthy like white flour, I'm just not going to eat it at all. Same with hydrogenated oils, same with fast food, junk food, alcohol. I never had it. But other things that are known to be carcinogenic are, a lot of pickled foods, salted pickle food, all the artificial sweeteners are carcinogenic, and a lot of dairy diet products are carcinogenic, and a smoked meat we know. So when I have turkey, I never get the smoked turkey. And we could say processed dairy, like homogenized and pasteurized. So, if we really want to differentiate between what's healthy and what's not healthy, it's very easy. I would say all the unhealthy things that are made by man. This is what I told children, made by man. You could get a candy bar, you get a Fruit Loops, and whatever you have is made by man. It's in one hand. And the other hand, we could say is made by nature or God. So we got the fruits, the vegetables, the grains. Okay, so we've messed with these grains a little bit. The more man messes with things, the worse. It's not that milk is bad. It's what we've done to the milk. That's the pasteurizing and the homogenizing. And, it's not cane sugar that causes cancer. It's the refining that we took to it. I would say it's not even, meat. It's not fish that's cancerous. It's the farmed salmon, the farmed fish. It's always man messing it up and changing it and making the food kind of perverted and no longer its original, original state. So, when I was teaching children, I'd say I have an apple in one hand and a candy bar in the other hand. And I just said, okay, which one was made by nature and which one was made by man? And, 5-year-old kids got it. And once they get it, that's it. You just forget all the man-made stuff. And that really solves the whole problem. I have fruit. Sometimes I have a little fruit juice, for kids. I'll give them a little fruit juice. At least it's still made by human. I kind of juiced it a little bit, and you don't want to do too much fruit juice. But that's the best way to think. No soda pops. And, of course, I'm anti-microwave, too. I would never use a microwave in my house. And it's somewhat debatable how much radiation is being put out nowadays. Apparently, it's much less than it was before. But I'm not the type of person to take a chance or mess with that. And microwave popcorn is known to be carcinogenic. So, I think there's some organic stuff out there, but I wouldn't do it. So these are the first things that you need to try to eliminate just for your health, not alone cancer. Because everything I mentioned is unhealthy anyway. Cancer takes a long time to progress. Everybody can have a little grilled meat every once in a while, a little ice cream once in a while. Even though I don't encourage that moderation mentality, I would say more than an emergency would be a better approach. And on a very rare occasion, some of these things, but there's never any need to have soda pop. I mean, you can always drink water. There's no need to be eating most junk food. You can always go somewhere, even if you're going to restaurants, and find better home cooked food than fast food. So there's always options. But so all of these things I mentioned, they're all going to create other health problems. Hydrogenated oils, trans fats, they're going to lead to fatty liver, high cholesterol, the processed foods, the white flour, the soda pop. It's all going to lead to diabetes. So, you're going to probably get some other health conditions in there before you get to the cancer. Before you get to cancer, you're going to have other problems too: fatigue, weakness, diabetes, high blood pressure, low libido, all these other problems, liver problems, skin problems. You'll have all these will happen first before the cancer arrives. Now, according to Ayurveda, you have to have all three doshas imbalanced to have cancer. And the first dosha can be vata, or anyone can be first, but there has to be a type of blockage that takes place in the system, because we now know, of course, that oxygen is anti-cancerous, and all the nutrients and the antioxidants and the vitamins and even the herbs you're taking are all going through the bloodstream. And if you have some part of your body with extremely poor circulation that gets blocked off, whether it's some kind of lymphatic blockage, colon constipation blockage, or blockage in your arteries, any blockages is one of the first or one of the pathways to cancers. Things get blocked first, and then that's the vata. There's a lack of flow. It's not moving, kind of like the water that's not flowing. It's kind of gone off the river, and there's like a puddle over there. And then the second stage is, and that's the vata imbalance. And then the second stage is, and just dryness, really dry skin. It kind of blocks your sweat, dry stools, blocks your bowel movements. So low fat diet will affect your neurological system. So blockage is the first thing you want to avoid in all conditions. And you can see Ayurveda has a big focus on this. We don't want blocked breathing. So we take a lot of bronchial dilators and different herbs to restore the respiratory system in the case of allergies. And, of course, we don't want to block colon. We don't want to block pancreas. We don't want to block the liver. We don't want to block gallbladder. So avoiding blockages and poor circulation is number one. And once you have cancer, you have to have a kind of a blockage. And then the second stage is there's a formation. Something starts forming like a lump or a tumor or a cancerous cell. So it's forming this, not necessarily cancerous yet, but like the tumor or the lump is forming. Again, like the water that's not flowing with the river, it's kind of often a puddle over there. And then, things start growing in it, fermenting. It gets thicker and thicker and gooier, and, starts microorganisms and pathogens start growing in there because there's no flow of water. It's outside of the flow of the river. And then things start growing. That's stage number 2. This is an Ayurvedic perspective, an ancient perspective. So you don't want things growing on you that shouldn't be growing on you. You don't want lumps in the body. You don't want, skin tags, moles, anything growing ain't good on you. It's never a good sign in Ayurveda, whether it's cancerous or not. And of course, if you have a growth or a polyp or a cyst or a fibroid, these are all types of growths. And, the doctor's going to want to test it to see if it's cancerous. Well, they also know that's, not good once you have a growth. So, and most of these growths are, coming a lot of times from the diet and the blockage, and they're coming from the blockage. But also we could say in modern nutritional science terms, we could say too much protein. Your protein is contributing to growth of every cell in your body. But once you reach a certain size in life, we need protein to regenerate all of our cells in our body and even help tissue rebuild. But if you have too much, you can start to get growths and bumps and lumps. And of course, that's why weightlifters, they love all the protein because they're trying to grow the muscle, and they're working out and keeping things moving, and maybe that prevents them for a while to not have the cancer that a person who was consuming that much protein would. But I can tell you, in India, once you have any form of cancer, they're dropping the protein and all the animal protein for sure, 100% for almost every cancer. They just leave you with ghee. So they're going to drop it right away for every cancer. So, and that's what I do. That's what the people I know in India who are treating cancer do. So nowadays, of course, you can go on, and there's many people advocating just eat meat when you have cancer, which is the exact opposite of what people like myself and in India do when a person has cancer. So these are theories. The keto is like a theory. I don't follow any of this. I don't trust any of it. I do what is working and what has worked for me. So, you don't want growths. So the third stage that makes it malignant, so you've got a blockage, then you've got a growth, and then the third stage in the growth, of course, is kapha, and fungus, yeast, that's all kapha, and then lumps, all kapha. And then the third stage is the pitta, because you need all 3 doshas to be imbalanced to have cancer, vata, pitta, kapha. And pitta will make it like inflamed and red. So like if you have a mole that's already up to stage 2. It's a lump growing on you, but as long as it's not red and inflamed and painful, then you wouldn't be concerned, because that means it's not got the third element, the pitta. And so once you have the pain and redness, and particularly pain, that's like the third stage. This is a sign that you have the 3 aspects of cancer, according to Ayurveda: Vata, Kapha, and Pitta. So I tried to summarize it very quickly, but I think it's a very pragmatic and way of looking at cancer. I think when you get online, people are talking about the mitochondria, the cells, and this research and that research, and this research says something. But if you just think from this Ayurvedic point of view, Ayurveda isn't interested in things at a cellular level, because it's an ancient system. They weren't looking at a cellular level. And this is the way the Western mind thinks, is trying to diagnose and break things down on a microscopic level, and they're still looking at everything under that perspective. If they can just see it at a cellular level, what's happening, they can make a pill to affect it at that cellular or biological level. But in Ayurveda, they look at the human body completely different. They look at it as functional. They don't feel they have to understand every aspect of your heart, or your cardiovascular system, or liver, or kidney. They have to understand its functions. That's what they're focused on, the functions. So the diagnosis of your liver, your kidneys, your gallbladder is all based on the symptoms of its and signs of its functioning. So, of course, you have to know what a properly functioning colon is, properly functioning digestion is, and people don't even know what properly functioning systems are. But in Ayurveda, that's how we diagnose conditions and treat them for, we look at the poor function of an organ or a system, and then we're using herbs and diet to improve that function. So the same with cancer. We're seeing, from this kind of functional, what's taking place on a very energetic level, where you're having blockages, restrictions, and that can also be depletion. So nutritional deficiency would be in that first category of depletion and blockage. Like not even having enough water and being dehydrated is a type of depletion that's going to lead to blockages, like less sweating. So, and then that's blockages in your pores. That's the first step, and then things start forming, and then they become kind of inflamed with the pitta at the end. So if you understand this pathology of cancer from the Ayurvedic perspective, that's how they can avoid it, by not letting all 3 doshas become imbalanced. And if you're my patient, you'll learn very quickly that you probably have 1, maybe 2 doshas imbalanced. We don't get that many people, except the cancer patients, who have all 3 doshas imbalanced. Most people have 1. They're a little too kapha, a little too heavy. They're too vata, thinking too much, a little dry, a little nervous, overactive, or they're too pitta, they're warm and hot with a little anger and some heartburn. But once you start to have 2 of them out of balance, that's, more advanced, 2 doshas out of balance, and you have 3 doshas out of balance, that could mean, if this is not balanced, these doshas in time will lead to cancer. So Ayurveda is very sophisticated. We have like many stages of disease, and only the 5th stage is even manifest. So Ayurveda can see these doshic imbalances in the very early stages, and these cancers do not happen overnight. These doshas imbalance over time, and then the effects of the 3 imbalanced doshas of depletion, blockages, formation, inflammation, all combined together, making this deadly disease, basically. And like I said, anybody will have multiple other diseases leading up to it. Cancer will just be the accumulation or the culmination of your health problems. So why do people who eat good, don't have refined sugar, don't have soda pop, having all organic food. And that's, of course, why I eat organic food, because I don't want the chemicals and I don't want to get cancer, I don't want to live long. So, I mean, that's always been my answer to people when they see that I don't eat these things. But why do people who you know, eat healthy still end up with cancer? Well, that's because these aren't the only causes. There can be a malfunction in your organ. For example, you could be eating really healthy and be getting heartburn all the time because you're eating a lot of spicy foods, sour foods, and you thought vinegar was a cure-all. So you're having a lot of vinegar, and this is creating stomach acids. You're getting all this heartburn, or maybe even silent GERD where you don't even notice it. Well, then you could end up with throat cancer, even you're eating healthy. And definitely for colon cancer, people with colon cancer, first question I ask them is, what's been the history of your bowel movements? How many times per day did you go usually, and did you miss a day sometimes? And even people who only went once a day can end up with colon cancer. And usually these people have a history of a little diverticulitis prior, maybe 10 years earlier, 20 years earlier. And so, you can see it coming. This is why Ayurveda takes things like, these health issues like constipation very seriously. And if, say, you've had a lot of urinary tract infections, this could lead to cancer. Any holding back your urine, holding back your appetite, even holding back your need to, go to the toilet and defecate. All of these holding things back in Ayurveda can lead to cancer and blockages. So constipation in the body is a very common cause of colon cancer. And you may think your bowels are normal because you've been your whole life been missing a day, but that's not healthy. And Ayurveda sees that the human body isn't perfect, and we all have weaknesses or a weak point. So if you have 10 people and they're all living and eating the same thing, they could all get cancer in different types. Like a Pitta Prakriti type of person is going to get more Pitta type of cancers, like skin cancers, blood cancer, liver cancers. And a Kapha type of person is going to generally get tumor type of cancers, like breast cancer and prostate cancer. And a Vata type of person is going to have things that resulted from the blockages and the poor circulation and the dryness, which leads to dry, hard stools and colon cancer, for example. So each type of person, Vata, Pitta, or Kapha, will have a predisposition for certain types of cancer because they've been having that dosha out of balance for so long. And then anybody having a constant long-term health problem like constipation or just urinating at night or acid reflux or heartburn or anything that's going on for a long time will increase their probability of cancer. So the other question I did ask an oncologist in India one time, why do children are born with cancer? If you have to have these blockages and these imbalance of doshas and are these bad lifestyle and all these, carcinogenic foods that we're having, but how does a child end up with cancer? And this oncologist said very casually that, that's from the mother. The mother already was consuming these foods prior to conception, and then during pregnancy and nursing, she was having the carcinogenic foods or habits, like junk food, refined food, sugar, smoked meats, and, these things that we mentioned, and maybe poor sleep and stress on top of that, and maybe obesity and constipation. It's usually multiple factors contributing to the cancer. So then, of course, the fetus and the child can have cancer at birth based on the mother's diet, lifestyle during pregnancy. And according to this Ayurvedic doctor, even prior to pregnancy. So I hope that makes all mothers and women who are pregnant to really be quite serious about your diet during this period when your child is forming in your body. Its organs are forming during this period. And so, they're easily damaged by chemicals. All medicine is basically harmful to the liver and the kidneys. Many of them are carcinogenic. So, during pregnancy, you really need to be eating as best you can, avoiding medication, drinking, smoking, and all of these carcinogenic habits during your pregnancy for sure. Um, and of course, there's many heavy metals, many vaccines, medication that have also um, affecting our immune system and making us immune compromised, which also makes us more vulnerable for cancers. So I hope you learn from that. I hope everybody becomes more careful and takes this subject more seriously, for their own longevity, the health of themselves, the health of their family, and definitely the health of their babies and children and future children. Okay. Well, I wish you all the best of health, and I hope I motivated you to stop all of these, unhealthy habits, whether it's because they're basically unhealthy anyway, whether you get cancer or not, eating genetically modified food, alcohol, farmed fish, microwave popcorn, processed meats, refined sugar, soda pop. I mean, they're just poor habits anyway, and you're going to have plenty of health problems before the cancer shows up to let you know that you've been on the wrong path and you need to change your direction. And sometimes just taking a med, you haven't changed your direction. That's the problem with medication. You take the pill and you see the numbers change, but you haven't changed the path. And you need to change your path once you start to have chronic pain, high blood pressure, high blood sugar for sure, and not allow the pathology to continue, because it takes time to produce cancer. It's the body's almost last-ditch effort to save itself from all that it's been exposed to that are harmful to the body. All right. Well, I wish you all the best of health and happiness, and I hope this motivated you to improve your habits and your diet and your lifestyle. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. God bless you.